What's up, Sen Squad? Welcome back to another Brawl Stars video. Today is going to be a full guide for Byron, the new brawler that I haven't really been focusing on too much because Edgar has been the main attraction since everyone sort of got him for free. But if you do have Byron, hopefully this guide will help you out. We'll go over all the tips and tricks you need to know for playing Byron in pretty much any mode, and basically just how to push trophies really fast with him. So his main attack, fairly simple, does 560 damage when you hit an opponent, and then a second later it deals another 560 damage, and then the last tick is another second later. So after impact, it takes 2 seconds to do the full amount of damage, which is 1680 at max level, and his range is pretty long at 10 tiles. So generally when playing Byron, the main thing you have to focus on is whether or not you want to be trying to attack your opponents and deal damage, or heal your teammates and let them do most of the damage work. And there's really a lot of things that you have to consider at the same time to really make the best decision when you're playing Byron. So it takes a while to sort of get used to really looking at all your teammates' health bars and all your opponent's health bars and positioning and everything like that. But hopefully I'm going to make it a bit easier for you with all the tips I'm going over today. So when you attack your teammate, since you heal the same amount of damage you do, which is the 560 number I was talking about, so 1680 total, then it seems like it's pretty similar value whether or not you're going to heal your teammates or attack your opponents. Because if one of your teammates is fighting an opponent, adding 1680 to their health is essentially the same as taking away 1680 health from your opponent, because you're just going to give your teammate that 1680 health advantage. So in that sense, you might think it doesn't really matter whether or not you're attacking or healing as long as you just hit one of them. And while in most cases that's actually sort of what the case is, there are a lot of other situations where one is usually better than the other. Now, if your teammate's ever at a pretty low amount of health, if you attack them 3 times, you're usually going to get most of that healing off as long as they have a pretty high max HP. It might take some time, but generally you're going to get that full healing off. But the thing is, if there's ever an opponent near you who has low health, like if they're at exactly 1500 health, then one attack is going to kill them, but it's going to take 2 seconds to do that. So instead, usually what you do if you're alone is you just spam all 3 attacks, so that way you get the starting damage from each of them, and that's going to add up to 1680, which is over 1500, so they die. But that wastes all 3 of your ammo, and you only get 1680 damage out of all 3 of your ammo, so it sort of feels like you're wasting it in that situation. So whenever opponents are at really low health, if you see other people doing damage to them, it's usually better to heal them up rather than attacking the low health opponent, because a lot of times the damage is going to go to waste from your attack, whereas the healing is pretty much always going to get the full benefit, because your teammates definitely need to heal after a close fight like that. And I think just in general, focusing a bit more on healing is usually more useful, given that it allows you to stay back farther and just stay more safe, and that way you don't have to have as much concern over your own health, and you can just focus on your teammates' health and buffing them enough so that they can win their battles. But the thing is, when you are healing, you're not gaining any charge on your super, and Byron's super is actually pretty good. I'll get more into the tips specifically for super later, but if it's not that necessary to heal, if you're not going to get the full value out of your heal, like your teammates are less than 1680 health away from being at full health, then I think it's better to just strictly go for damage, so that way you can get your super charge up, because that super is going to provide a lot more support than you would if you just kept healing, got a similar amount of support as you would with the damage, but then ended up not having your super in the end. But like I said, when people are in the heat of battle, I do think it's generally better to focus on healing, because usually one of your teammates will be in a sort of 1v2 situation, because you won't be directly attacking anyone. So if you spam your healing on them, then you can give them the support they need to take on that many opponents. Now, preferably you want to be focusing on healing melee brawlers for a lot of reasons. They have a lot more health, so your healing attacks are going to have a lot more value in general. It's also really easy to hit them, and if you accidentally miss them, usually the opponent they're fighting will be pretty close to them, since they're a close range brawler. So if you miss them, you're probably going to hit their opponent, so it's really easy to get value no matter where you're aiming, as long as you have that melee brawler in your team and you're aiming near them. And a lot of times melee brawlers just have a really high damage output, so if you can keep them alive in combat with their healing, you're going to get a lot of value out of that. And this is sort of a lesser consideration, but playing with slower brawlers on your team usually helps as Byron. I know I've played with Edgar a lot trying to push him up, and it can be a bit tricky sometimes to hit your healing shots because they move so fast, especially after he uses his super. And sometimes you end up just wasting a lot of your attacks because you're trying to heal your teammates and you just keep missing them because they're juking the opponent's shots. They're doing whatever they have to do to survive, and you just sometimes can't hit your shots to effectively heal them. So sometimes it might help to play with slower melee brawlers and just try to stay close enough to them that it's pretty easy to hit them without missing too often. And another way you can help that is by auto-aiming. And I know you can't auto auto-aim your teammates if you want to heal them right off the bat. What you have to do is aim a shot directly at them, and then your auto-aim will sort of retarget onto them, and then if you just tap the auto-aim button after that, all your healing shots will just go directly onto them. So if you have a melee brawler and they're going to be in a battle for some amount of seconds and you're not only going to be doing one healing shot on them, then just manually aim that first shot, and then if it hits them, great, you can just auto aim from then on, and you should be able to easily hit most of your healing shots as long as you're not really far away from them and they're juking a lot. So now I mentioned his super before, which is why attacking is so necessary, because you're gonna want to charge up this super multiple times over the course of a match. So his super does 2100 damage on impact or 21 healing if you hit anyone on your team, including yourself. This is the only way Byron can heal himself besides using his gadget, since he can't heal himself with his main attack. And the width of his super is 5.33 tiles, so it's not actually that large. And I find a lot of times it's difficult to really hit it just where you want it because it takes a bit of time to deploy. It's not as automatic as the other healer we have, Poco, and his super, which just sort of goes out instantly. So Byron, you do have to plan a bit in advance if you want to make sure you're hitting right where you want to with your super. And now for Byron's super, you never really want to auto aim it, because auto aim is going to lock directly onto the center of whoever is the nearest opponent. And unless you're within half of the diameter, which is 2.67 tiles of them, it's not going to reach you. So you can be within 5 tiles of someone, which should be perfectly fine for you to be able to heal both yourself and damage your opponent at the same time if you were to manually aim your super. But if you do auto aim it, it's going to lock onto their center rather than directly in between you, and you're going to end up not getting healed. So you're not going to get a lot of value out of your super if you do auto aim it. It's just not going to hit as many people. You really want to manually aim it and sort of aim it in the middle of everyone who you're trying to hit with your super. And now you don't have to heal yourself. A lot of times I find myself helping out a melee brawler because they're going to force a bunch of people to get grouped up when they get in close, and just throwing it on there, dealing as much damage as I can to my opponents, hopefully finishing some of them off, and then giving my teammate a little boost to make it out of that battle and still have a lot of health left. So if you want to get the most value out of your super, I strongly recommend not auto aiming. It's not going to help you. I would say the only time you can auto aim is if some other brawler on your opponent's team jumps really close to you within 2.67 tiles of you, and you're about to die and you just need a quick burst of damage and healing for yourself. If you auto aim there, it's going to save you that maybe half a second of time, which could keep you alive, but you really have to make sure that you're within those 2.67 tiles. Otherwise, you're sort of just going to be wasting your super by auto aiming there because you're not going to hit yourself and get any health back. Now, moving on to Byron's best modes. Now, I think he is really strong in modes where he can sort of help his teammates, and modes that aren't reliant on DPS like Heist or Siege, where you sort of have to really focus on dealing a lot of damage to the safe or playing really good defense and melting the Siege bot. I don't think he's going to be that bad in Siege because he is pretty good at maintaining control and helping his teammates, like I said, so he's going to be good at collecting bolts in general, but since he's so bad at defending the bot, I think there are better options, certainly in Siege. I think he's okay in Gem Grab. He'll be able to maintain decent control of the center, and whenever countdown comes, he's really going to be able to buff his teammates by constantly healing them, so it makes it more likely for you to take down whoever is carrying the gems on your opponent's side, but I don't think he's going to be really good in this mode. So that leaves Brawl Ball, Bounty, and Duo Showdown, and I think he's going to be really good in all 3 of these modes. Personally, I push him in Brawl Ball since I push most of the brawlers I play in Brawl Ball, and he's not like the best brawler in Brawl Ball, but he just provides a lot of value to any team that he's on, and you just have the ability to sort of spam your heal attacks on whoever is rushing the goal with the ball. And if you like just did a team wipe, all your opponents are respawning. For most brawlers, they don't have a use for their attack, but if you're Byron, you can just attack on your team whoever has the ball and get that healing charged up so that the moment they take damage, they're already regaining that 560 health per second. So that just gives you a much greater chance of basically being able to just force the ball into their goal. So I definitely think he's pretty useful in Brawl Ball, Bounty, and Duo Showdown. It's just sort of pure outplaying. Byron has a lot of support utility and can really help out his teammates pull off some cool plays, and just generally makes his team stronger than whoever they're facing. So when it comes to strict battling like that, I think he's going to do really well. And so those modes that basically just focus on which team is going to come out on top in a direct fight, I think he's going to be great in. In terms of his star power and his gadget, I actually don't have them, so I can't play around with them too much, but I don't think they're really game-changing in any way. His gadget takes an ammo and lets him heal over a period of time to gain back 2400 health. I don't think Byron's health is all that necessary, but I think it's very good to heal up once in a while, just so that you don't have to stay out of battle when you could be healing up your teammates just to recharge your own health, because that just seems like a waste and is probably going to be at a really important time when you could be attacking your opponents and healing your teammates. And his star star power, when you use your super, you can reduce healing from the opponent's side by 50% for 9 seconds. I think this is a pretty good star power, especially since it affects the regen healing, which is kind of a big deal. Slowing that down by 50%, it's going to make it twice as long for them to recharge their health. And that can definitely be really significant when it comes down to it, because it's going to make them running away a lot less safe for them, because usually they can just run away and hide behind a wall. But when it takes so long for them to recharge, you're going to have a lot of opportunity on your team to push forward, get more control, and really take charge of the game. So I do think that it's a good star power. I don't think it's really that game breaking in any way, and it doesn't really change your strategy at all. Maybe you want to save your super until after the end of a really big fight, just so that they really struggle to recharge their health. Or if they have a direct healer like a Poco or another Byron on their team, using the super really hard nerfs those brawlers for a short period of time. So you might want to save your super for the best moments when you can really focus on blocking their healing, but usually you're going to get most value out of your super just by throwing it in the heat of a battle and trying to hit as many people as possible. But that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and join the Send Squad by turning on notifications and going to your settings and enabling notifications there as well. But that's all for today, guys, so see you later.